And I remind you that that little body of howling dervishes brought on us a terribly fratricidal war, inflicting on us an irreparable loss, and impoverishing our nation and our race forever by destroying the genetic heritage of our best men. It also coarsened us morally, perhaps irreparably. After the assassination of Lincoln, which they certainly contrived, our hate-crazed do-gooders had their way. If there is any American who can read the history of all the suffering wantonly inflicted on the white people of the South during what was called Reconstruction, can read that record without hanging his head in shame and feeling through his whole being an anguished remorse, I can only say that he is hard-hearted and sadistic beyond my understanding. With that beginning, is it any wonder that we have reached the point at which now frenzied hatred of us is the certain way of attaining our reverence, our veneration, and our subsidies? How we Americans have been taught to hate ourselves. Chinese communists attack and capture one of our naval vessels, which we, doubtless by agreement between them and our masters in Washington, refuse to defend, although we have ample warning of the attack. Our own men, serving where we sent them, under our flag, and wearing our uniform, are dragged into a degrading captivity of torture. But who cares? They're just white swine like us, born to work and die for their master's pleasure. Now, of course, if they had been something really choice and noble, such as a lousy, mongrel, syphilitic, homosexual, communist cannibal, all of our liberal punks would be out screeching and howling in the streets from dawn to dusk and then all night. Every day, more and more of our young men are shipped to Vietnam and forced to fight under conditions carefully contrived to ensure the maximum loss of American lives and eventual defeat. But let us overlook that. Let us assume that it really is a war and that it is being honestly fought. What is its professed purpose? To secure a naval or air base for the United States? To help and protect our blood brothers in Australia? Those would be rational purposes. Although, of course, one could debate the strategic necessity of that particular location as against another. But no, the ostensible purpose, the declared purpose, is to save the prolific Orientals of South Vietnam from communism. Now, never mind that that purpose is transparent hypocrisy, so transparent that those who utter it sneer at us every time they mouth it. Assume that the purpose is sincere. What then? We are white men of the West, and if we were sane, no truth would be more obvious and unquestionable to us than the fact that all the teeming population of Vietnam is not worth the life of one American soldier. But if anyone suggests that, we're horrified. Are we not the world's slaves to be used for do-gooding? Who cares about our sons? They're expendable. Now, at the instigation of the very contrivers and promoters of that slaughter in Vietnam, hordes of young punks and trollops come streaming from the doors of those abattoirs, which for some reason are still called colleges, and they protest the awful war in Vietnam. What are they protesting? The useless death of a brother? Of a former classmate? A white man? No. They're yowling and yammering because some of the sweet Orientals in North Vietnam are getting hurt. If we could only find some plausible way of killing American boys without discomfort to the Orientals, those rabid protesters in our streets would be perfectly happy and content. In Rhodesia, probably the select representatives of our race are maintaining themselves against great odds. What is the attitude in this country? We must slaughter them. They're white men. Butcher them, kill them, rape the white women, kill the white men, and then we will have brotherhood. And you can hear that in many a pulpit, and you can hear that in every classroom. Sometimes from little parrots who are mouthing the equivalent of Polly wants a cracker. Of course, in this case, it's John wants a raise. And sometimes by people who understand what they're saying, and as you watch them, you will see their eyes glow with anticipation and see them lick their dry lips as they look forward to the time when the last white man in Rhodesia is butchered, probably by our own troops in the service of our enemies. Down in Memphis, an agent of our Central Intelligence Agency shoots a black automobile thief, noted communist agent, and bloodthirsty inciter of riots and revolution against us. What happens? Half the white nitwits in the United States snivel and sob and mourn, saying tearfully, "Oh, he wanted to kill white swine like us. Wasn't he noble? Wasn't he saintly? Wasn't he just like Jesus?" One could go on for hours listing more examples, but I have said enough surely to show you what is really the greatest single obstacle that we face, the perverted masochism that has been incited in so many of our own people. That, then, is the point that I would make today. If you Canadians wish at any time to estimate what is likely to happen in the race war in the United States, the important and crucial factor for you to watch is the extent to which we at last learn some of the basic facts about races, and the extent to which we recover from our morbid and psychotic masochism. I admit that our plight has its funny aspect. Dr. Teufelsdruck up in a tree and meowing for help is probably not half as funny from one aspect as those poor whites in the United States who wring their hands about our racial problem and have big studies to find out what the racial problem is and just don't know what to do about it. But that absurdity has its tragic aspects, which you should consider very earnestly for your own sakes, for you cannot escape the effects of what happens to us south of your border. We men of the West have many weaknesses, but with the race war now upon us, and its coming horrors looming before our very eyes, our crucial flaw is that insane masochism, the imbecility that holds white men in motionless stupor, just as the imbecility of the passenger pigeons kept them roosting on the branches of trees, while one of the early settlers climbed up and clubbed them by the hundreds into barrels on the ground below. If we have yet the rationality to overcome our morbid masochism, we have a chance to survive. If we have not, then we shall go the way of the passenger pigeon. The law of nature is harsh and immutable, and in our estimation cruel. We may weep about it, but nature never has and never will tolerate the survival of weaklings. If we have become a race of befuddled and sentimental nincompoops, then, despite our cherished culture, our incomparable science, our irresistible technology, our beautiful art, and our profound learning, we shall go under and perish from the earth. And if we go under, then despite all that we cherish and revere, and despite the morality that is the peculiarity of our race and seems so high and noble to us, if we go under, I say, we shall have been weighed in the only balance that counts in this world, and we shall have been found wanting. We shall have been proven an inferior species that, biologically speaking, had no right to survive. And when we are gone, no man in after time will mourn our passing. Like the Sybarites, who were in their day a people of superior culture until they became too advanced to defend themselves. We shall be remembered, if at all, with mockery and derision. And we shall have richly deserved the contempt of our successors. For it is we, not our enemies, who will have been the architects of our ruin, and the executioners of ourselves and of our children, and of all the posterity that we might have had.